come back to.
All right. We're good? All right. All right, thanks, guys. Excuse me. A lot of popcorn. So I want to bring up, we have a couple of the people here. I will bring them up very quickly. We have, very appropriate for his character, Mark, all the way from Keene, New Hampshire. We have James, who doesn't have any of his cool costumes or toys or anything, but James and I actually went to high school together, so. And we have the man himself, the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the Mahoning Drive-In. And believe it or not, this was the first time Jeff saw the movie, so Jeff could literally be walking up here right now being like, what the hell was this? I think you got to turn it on. Yes. So first off, Jeff, I'm just curious, that was your first time seeing the movie. We've been going to screenings now for about 2 months, and we've been trying to get you to come to one, and finally you're here.
Not for lack of trying.
Right.
Yeah, finally made it to this one.
So what'd you think? How did I and we capture your drive-in?
You did great. It was awesome. It really was. I wanted it to keep going almost. I mean, it's so real to me because I'm there all the time and sitting here. It was like living it all over again. I thought it was great.
Yeah, very good.
I thought you did fantastic.
Thank you. And funny enough, these guys actually, I would say I shot most of the film, but the night that Jaws didn't show up, I wasn't there. I think I was on my honeymoon, and I remember rapidly texting James, could you please do you have any camera? So he had a camera on him.
I have it with me right here.
That's it. So James actually shot all that stuff where Matt was rigging the projectors and everything. So that's the climax of the film. So thank you. And Mark obviously sort of vlogged. I asked him to sort of vlog his trip from New Hampshire to kind of give it a different sort of vibe. It's sort of a different tone. And
This is the sixth
all traffic safety laws with a giant video camera.
yes.
While
He
rocking it
risked
down the
his
highway.
life and his car,
Yeah.
so I appreciate it.
You're a 6.5 hour guy.
That's what ladies say, but no, 6.5. I perfected it down to 5 actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Straightaways, it's great.
And Dave, I saw you come in late. You missed the opening montage, Dave. I was heartbroken. I saw you walk in. I'm like, Jesus, he missed the opening montage that sets the stage, Dave. So I'll have to send you the private link to watch. But so yes, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you're shy, we could talk outside. But we'd love to provide any context, because I know most of you have been to the Mahoning Drive-In and love it. So
it might be a little early to answer this, but do you know when the possibility of like a home video release for this is, so I can sit down and watch every goddamn day, talk to my friends and tell them how amazing this documentary is, and so you can see how fucking amazing Mahoning is?
I would also like to know the answer.
Well, right now it's looking like summer 2018. And the reason for that is we have a couple of screenings in the spring coming up. I know at the Ambler Theater in March. That's kind of near Philly. It's going to be screening there. A few film festivals. And then, basically a lot of the film festivals, they kind of don't want it obviously available online because then people won't come to the film festival. So all of the film festivals that I submitted to pretty much wrap up by summertime. So it's looking probably like the summer. And I'm not really sure yet if I'm gonna release it online myself. We've had 2 distributors talk to me about it, but in today's day and age, putting it on iTunes yourself is not hard. So I might go that route, or we might have, a distributor kind of help out with that. But it all kinds of depends, so. Yes.
Any news from Virgil and the newer role?
So yes, I haven't spoken to him. I haven't even congratulated him yet, but
Yes, I think, it was last Friday night, I believe, or Saturday night?
Yeah.
Friday night, yeah.
Virgil
So-
Keaton Cardamone?
Yes, exactly.
Little baby V is now soon to be in the house at the theater.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna start booking films next week.
Anyone else? Tim? Tim Kale?
What you said early on about like working with the film, like
Mhm.
touching the film, pointing the film, that you're projecting this, and you have to actually physically work with it. And what the movie shows is like the humanity of that. Like there's a lot, it's a very human place, and digital is like encroaching on that humanity by simplifying it. You say you just push a button, you know.
Well, basically, yeah. In my opinion, they're not really projectionists anymore, although they still hold that title. The gentleman here that runs all the digital here, terrific guy, real nice guy. And he calls himself a projectionist, and I won't take that away from him. The fact that film involves a lot more work than that, it almost is an entirely different job. But he still has one 35 millimeter here, so he still gets to work with film somewhat. But there's not too many people that can do what we do anymore as far as film goes.
So my question for everyone here then is, like, this preserves like humanity of film and how it brings people together, you know. And my question for you is it seems like technology just continually encroaches on that territory, that human space, you know. And this, the Mahoning, is like keeping that at bay of that and like preserving something very real and human about us. So like, what is it, like, why do you think we allow technology to steal this beauty away from us?
Well, I think because they want the cheaper, the faster buck. I mean, you have, when you're dealing with film, it takes one projectionist to run one booth. And when you have digital, one guy can run 16, 20 auditoriums, especially since they can be programmed to start automatically. You don't even have to start them anymore. Set the timer, they start. That's all there is to it. But when you're dealing with film, and if you're dealing with manually operated equipment like I still have, then it takes one guy to run one screen. And you know, you're always going to have progress, whether it's the latest computer, the latest iPad, the latest anything. There's always something 2 years down the road that's going to outdo it. So I view the Mahoning as a kind of a living, breathing antique. It's something that if I can keep it original and keep it the way it was built, that's something that nobody else has. There's a couple drive-ins that are close to us, and they've been renovated several times. Except for the outside shell, they don't look anything like they did in the 50s or in the 40s, whereas mine definitely does. And I'm trying to keep it that way. That's what we all want to do. All the guys, we all want to keep it that way.
Thank you.
You know, I'd say too, it's a matter of convenience.
Yeah, Mills, there's a deleted scene of Mills bitching about movie theaters today where you pick your seat on, and I know you pick your seat here, but like actual, like Cinemark, like you go to the big multiplex and it's like you pick your seat and everything, and you don't have to wait in line, you don't have to camp out for a midnight showing like you did in the past. So stay tuned for a deleted scene. I know you're very passionate
It's
about
the
that.
same thing. Me and Al used to work at Blockbuster, and it's the same thing with watching movies at home. Nobody goes, you know, we can't, they're closed. You can't go to the video store, you know, actually get your car and drive and peruse the movies anymore and talk with somebody and make your selection. Now it's just you're sitting alone on your couch, you know, scrolling through on demand. It's the same exact experience. Everything is just lazy and convenience.
And I'll say that the on-demand, like when you're on Netflix or iTunes or something, the movie posters today just, they're like the worst images that they choose and just horrible posters. So I definitely miss that aspect of the video store. Like actually, it's like this. I feel like it is a communal experience. So yeah, I don't know if we answered your question, Tim, but we tried. Yeah, I think it's just people are lazy, and, you know.
You know, a lot of people I've actually met at the drive-in that I'm good friends with now, and I would never have met those people just hanging out at home, waiting for the on-demand release. You know, like seriously, like it's. I can't tell you how much my Facebook friends list has exploded since working there, because like Carl up front here I met at the drive-in. My friend Steven over here, I didn't meet him at the drive-in, but he's gone a million times. He actually was in the movie banging in the Crystal Lake.
Yeah,
sign
that's
for
right.
me.
You were the one who hammered it in. Very cool. Yes.
How and when did you get the idea for the documentary, and what was the initial response that you had from the group?
It was actually this guy right here. As Robert mentions in the film, I was setting out to do a documentary about something drive-in related. We had one in our hometown that we grew up in, which Dave grew up in as well, the Circle Drive-In. And Eric Burke is also. Did you know Eric Burke's here? Eric Burke, Dave Rosenberg. All right, Abington Heights represent. So I wanted to kind of. I'm very. My style with documentaries is very. I like people. I like sort of old-fashioned nostalgia. But they were too, and I've said this many times, and it's not a dig, they were too professional at this Circle Drive-In. They were too, like, they wanted to be in uniforms, they were very proper, they you know, it was too, like,
Sterile.
Too sterile, exactly. And James was like, you know, if you're looking to do a documentary about a drive-in, I go to this one all the time. And he's like, the people there are pretty cool. So I started researching about it, and I spoke to Jeff on the phone. I remember laying on my bed, talking to Jeff on the phone. It wasn't that. I don't realize I just said that.
Call me again sometime.
No, but I literally remember that conversation. We spoke, and I asked you like a million questions, and
Yeah.
it was probably about over an hour we spoke on the phone. And then I just started filming. Basically, this whole thing came about because I turned 30 and was depressed that I didn't make a feature film yet. I have a whole long catalog of short films. Turned 30 and I was like, this is not like I love making short films, but I was like, got in this to make features, and said, let me just jump in. I don't give a shit that I don't have the money or the crew. So I just started filming, and the more it was like an onion. It was like I didn't expect this. I mean, as you can tell, there's really no plot. Like, it starts out, there's like a setup for a plot, and then it just becomes them. And that was sort of not planned or thought of. It was just kind of, I say this a lot, they hijacked the film in a sense. They just wouldn't let me not film them. They were just too interesting, too funny, too passionate. I'm very interested in people who are passionate about something, or want something, or very talented at something. So it really, I mean, long story short, it really just sort of kept progressing, and before I knew it, I had shot, a year and a half passed, and we had this. So James is to thank for that. Any other questions?
Yeah, apologies ahead of time. I don't know, was it Jim or Tim? I'm sorry.
Tim.
Tim, to go back to him touching on the theoretical, incidentally, I waited decades to see my first movie at a drive-in, and I did it at the Mahoning, and I'm really glad I did. Nowadays, I come across a lot of people who are reducing the idea of 35 millimeter to a very purist thing. And I don't see a future in that. As much as I love 35 and I support 35, quote Joe Strummer of The Clash, he said there's no tenderness in fanaticism. Simple duality. If you have to choose between 35 millimeter or preserving the cinema experience, what's more important? 35. Yeah, thanks, Carl.
That's a question for you guys.
An open, something I just put it out there.
That's a tough one, because it's kind of like I explained when I talked about coming up one day and seeing that everybody had Guardians of the Galaxy. I was so tired of running the same thing that everybody else was running. 35 millimeter, sure, not quite as crisp as digital, but it gets darn close because I have excellent lenses. and it's very close. So on a film, you're going to see the little scratches. You're going to see, but that's kind of the historical aspect of it. Yeah, I want to preserve the finest looking picture, the greatest sound as I can, but to give up 35 to do it, no, because then that ruins the theater. The theater is historical. It's the way it was when it was built. To put digital in there and get rid of the 35 millimeter beasts, it would just be a hybrid that just would not look good, would not feel right. No, I'll run 35 millimeter unless we absolutely cannot get something. Then I'll run digital, but not interested. Not interested.
And it's the makeshift digital. It's not.
It is, but we put a lot of thought into it. I mean, I had the booth built to the standards that I wanted. It's air conditioned, obviously, because of the digital projectors, whereas the original booth is not. So I built it to last, and right now it's just bare bones inside, a couple of, electrical strips, and, it's not decorated. There's no inside walls or anything like that, because we're using it just as a tool. If we can't get something on 35 millimeter, we'll run digital. But other than that, it's, a blue building in the middle of the field. So I just didn't want to ruin the authenticity of the theater itself.
And as for me, in terms of just the general question, not specific to the Mahoning, personally, like what I said in the film, there's a certain psychological thing for me that goes along with film. There's the history of the print, there's the effort it takes to get it, there's all of that. 35 is what got me to go there in the first place. Had I known it was just a digital presentation, I probably wouldn't have made the trip for that. Having said that, I'm here like once a week, and it's a shorter drive, but it's not a short drive in general. And not everything I see here is film that's repertory, and I love it because it is the experience here is outstanding. This is not me angling for free tickets or anything. I take them, but I'm not angling.
I do want to see that Action Jackson print.
Yeah.
Oh my
that's
God,
the first
that
I've
trailer
heard.
was the funniest fucking thing
Totally
I've ever
coming
seen.
back for that. But yeah, for me, it is it's the theatrical experience. Like if I came here and it looked terrible and it wasn't film, then I would have a beef with that. Probably more so than if it was a reddish print, because that you can kind of roll with that. But that's just my own answer to that. Did you have
Eastman
any?
color, terrible.
Yeah, Crimson Vision, as they call it.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. Yeah.
Oh, that's tough for me. Because when at the drive-in, I don't try to have the traditional experience. I try to make it like a big party. So like, if I set proms inside of the concession stand and stuff. So if I could have that over 35, I guess, don't hate me, I'd probably pick that because it's a lot of fun. And that's what I bring to the table. I can't really get the prints like Virgil does, so I'd be out of a job. But the whole reason I even went to the drive-in was because of 35, though, because we don't have that. So seeing an old movie with history, knowing it's traveled, that it probably was made right when the movie came out, like
Lamar, yeah.
I've taken photos of just the film prints, and I have like a big catalog of just like looking at the date when it was struck and everything, so I don't know, it's a pretty big deal either way. I can't really decide.
I am aware that I shot the film digitally, and you just watched a DCP copy. I believe, was it Justin, right? Was this the DCP or was this?
It's the DCP.
Okay. So, that is literally the format that is, replacing 35 millimeter film projection. So there is a sort of, bizarre irony there. But I mean, digital allowed me to make this movie for $3,000 as opposed to $30,000 if I shot it on film. But part of me wishes, looking back, I feel like now that digital is so readily available, there's a lot of movies. It's like this is competing with like thousands of movies, whereas if this was 1989 or 1991, it would have been competing with far less movies. And I know I still would have had the drive to get it made somehow, whether it was on a VHS camera or something. So it's weird. I mean, I'm definitely someone who was interested in this place because they show 35 millimeter film, but I make my living off of shooting things digitally. So, yeah, I'm kind of a poser, I guess. I don't know. I'm a fraud. I'm sorry.
Get out.
Yes.
Just another one. I guess going almost back to Dino's point, my first driving experience wasn't until 4 years ago when I went to Warwick, and including Mahoning, I've been to five drive-ins, and hands down, I would recommend Mahoning to any person who has not been to a drive-in theater. I got a slew of friends who have never been to one. I keep representing to them, telling them that Mahoning is the place to go. I mean, given that drive-ins, you know, the entire history of them aren't really that, I don't think they're really that well recorded, except for maybe a documentary or two, not including this one.
Yeah,
maybe
going attractions. It's a free
Yeah.
plug to going attractions.
But yeah, but this is a very specific one, and I see that your reputation is growing. You got like you mentioned in the documentary, you got people coming from all over, and I think what you guys offer is, like Dino said, a more straightforward, great cinematic experience that it goes beyond just, you know, the kishiness or the retroness of going to a drive-in. I mean, the quality of the stuff you show, you turn into a real event. And I don't think we're really going to see a resurgence in drive-ins, but I think with your growing reputation, I think people are starting to reawaken to the idea that a drive-in is not just some, you know, place from a time long past, but it's a place you can still go and still get a truly tremendous cinematic experience, like the best possible for your buck. And I just want to, like, you know, going forward, what you guys might have planned for the next couple of seasons, what you guys think about your place in the world, or at least in this corner of the country today, about what you've contributed. Like, how do you all feel about it?
Well, again, I have to go back to kind of what the place stands for. I'm glad it's historical, and this is just something I'm picking out of the air. Most drive-ins don't even use their original ticket booth anymore. They have them closed up, boarded up. You buy the ticket in the concession stand where you get your snacks. And that's fine, but in fact, that was what was happening with the guy that had the drive-in before I had it. He closed up at that stainless steel teardrop-shaped ticket booth, had it all boarded up. People just drove through, got their tickets to the concession stand. And when I took it, I said, no. I said, I'm reopening that ticket booth. I said, that's where they're going to line up. They're going to, you know, just like they would have in the 50s. And so it's kind of hard to answer your question because I'm proud of the fact that it's a historical place, that it's like stepping back into the late 40s when it opened. And yet I appreciate the fact that there are other drive-ins around me, because there's nothing wrong with competition, but like I said, they've been renovated many times. They're kind of the modern approach to a drive-in. And every now and then you hear of somebody that's going to build a new drive-in. And that's what it looks like, a new drive-in. Digital, everything pristine and perfect, and no scratches on anything. And this place, you can tell, has been there 67 years, although it's in good shape. It's, you know, obviously been there a long time. So I can see both sides of it. But I'm proud of what we do at the Mahoning, and since it's the only example, really, of a historical drive-in, I want to keep it going that way.
And as for what we have planned for the future, I can't
Yeah.
really speak for that because that's Virgil's game and he's bouncing a baby on his knee. I probably assume right now. I think the annual events, the big events, Camp Blood, Zombie Fest, VHS Fest, certain things we tried for the first time this year that did really well, like Universal Monster Weekend.
Right.
You'll see those continue well on into the future. And as far as our place in the world, I think the reputation keeps growing. I keep hearing from people far away who said they've heard of the place, and
Yeah.
somebody from California didn't make it, but they were going to come out for VHS Fest next year. We have a guy
Right.
who comes down from Canada a couple times a year.
Right. We've had people from Michigan this year.
Virginia, like
Yeah.
the radius of where people travel from is getting wider and wider, because I think anybody who's been there knows we have camping on the weekends. So for an extra $10 a carload, you can sleep there, not on a concrete floor unless you choose to do so or you know somebody. So that makes it easier for people who are driving a long distance to, you know, save money on a hotel room.
Mhm.
Or like my case, that's how I started as a patron. It's like I wasn't going to try to drive back the same night, 6.5 hours starting at 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm broke and or cheap, so I didn't want to pay for a hotel room. So $10
Right.
to sleep in my car was wonderful. So yeah, I think it's growing every weekend. I feel like the Goodwill ambassador, strangely at the ticket, not at the ticket booth.
Well,
but
you are, because you're at the cash
I'm at
register.
the
You
cash
talk
register,
to everybody.
so I can
Yeah.
touch them. But so many people every week are first timers. They've never been to our place. They come up to me slack-jawed in a good way, and just dazzled, and they're like, "Oh my God, this place is so great! I'm going to come here every week."
Yeah,
A lot of people who have
that's-
never been to a drive-in before, of all ages.
Uh-huh.
So every weekend, new people, new faces. So I think it's only really going to continue to snowball until we cause an international incident or something.
No, I think you're right, and I hope it does, because hopefully in the next year or two, I am gonna purchase the property. Then I'll have the whole thing. And well, thank you. But that's the idea of preserving it for the future, for future generations. And you mentioned something about the special events. Now, I'll admit, one that did not go well this year was Gangster Night. I thought that would be great. We showed Edward G. Robinson, Little Caesar, White Heat with James Cagney. What was the third one? What was the triple feature? That
It wasn't Public Enemy, was it?
No.
Or it was another Bogart film.
Yeah, it was Bogart.
That was Bogart.
Petrified Forest. That's right, Petrified Forest. But we're going to do it again next year, because we feel that even though we pushed it as hard as we could, I don't think the word got out well enough on Gangster Night. So even if we have an event that doesn't quite meet our expectations, we're going to do it again next year, because we think it will grow. Like all the other events, it will grow, and then it will become worthwhile doing it every year. So that's one thing that we will be doing again next year. Yeah.
I don't got much to contribute to that one, but if you want to see something, go on the Facebook page and recommend the shit out of something, and we could easily take your idea and say, you know what, yeah, we're gonna do that. So it's very collaborative. Even people like you guys that don't volunteer, like the separation between us and you is like not existent really.
Yeah, you saw how Robert literally went
Yeah.
from, going there on his first night to at the very end, being behind the counter. So it literally is that. I don't want to say
Customers-
easy, but
No, customers are just as important as volunteers, absolutely. Go on our Facebook page, make a recommendation, a director you'd like to see, or a film series you'd like to see. That's all we do. We're 6 months open and 6 months closed. From now until spring, that's all we do is get together and decide what we're gonna play next year. So, any suggestions at all, just put it on Facebook, text it, whatever. It's because we take them all seriously, we write them down, we put them in the computer, and eventually, because there's a ton of we're gonna get to it.
And if anybody lives around here and you think, oh, that's really far away, compared to me, it's not. But
Yeah.
it's like 2.25 hours from here.
Yeah, about 2.5 hours.
So we've
It's
got a
all
lot of
true.
people from the New York area, Brooklyn and everything, who come down pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Some of them go back the same night, some of them sleep over.
Exactly, and that's where the camping comes in. You don't have to feel like, oh my gosh, now I have this 3-hour drive. No, you can stay overnight.
And some people come up to me and they go, oh my God, it was so far away, but we made the drive. It was an hour from where we live. And I'm like, oh, an hour, really? I mean, like in 60 minutes, you're back in your bed. Wow, that's pretty rough.
Well, for some people, that's a long.
Yeah.
Dave, I saw your hand up earlier.
Yeah, I guess I just kind of wanted to ask everyone what their favorite part from the experience of making this documentary, and also what you think you're going to take out of it for your next project.
My favorite part of making the film, well, I got to see a lot of free movies, so that was pretty sweet. I got to meet a lot of interesting people. I tried to make each person very distinctive because they were. My experience meeting everyone was literally like, oh, okay, like no one is alike who works there or volunteers there. So I hope that kind of got across. Robert was supposed to be here tonight. I tell everyone I kind of fell in love with Robert. I could have made a whole movie about him. I just loved his intensity and his passion. I much prefer to film people who are very just obsessed with something. I think that's very interesting. Obsession is sort of, because as a filmmaker, I feel like that's my whole life. I'm obsessed with my work. So what's next? I don't know. I've always, I'm stewing around ideas. I would love to make a blockbuster documentary someday. I don't know. Maybe. I don't think that story has been told. There are a few left. So we'll see. I don't know. But for me, I'm happy I got to meet these guys, see a bunch of cool movies, and I've also been traveling around. Like I said, this played in Savannah, and the Savannah Film Festival literally paid for me and my wife to come and spend 4 days there. So it's been pretty sweet, but yeah, we'll see.
I'm just glad that Al listened when I suggested he make it. Because it's too cool not to share. So
You were so concerned about how you came off in the and it's very funny. Like he would send me messages, be like, "Okay, don't make me sound stupid. I don't want to be like the guy from American Movie." So I had same with Virgil. After he saw the film, had like a list of 45 things. All of them were like, add something about this that I said, or there's all like 45 things about it. So it was very funny getting sort of feedback from each person, kind of, about their own likeness in the film. So hopefully Jeff doesn't want anything changed. Although I'm not gonna. Jeff, I think everyone falls in love with you after watching this movie. At least that's what I hear. So
Appreciate it, thank you. No, I have no demands. I just decided, I decided I was gonna sit back, let you do your filming, let you do your interview, and the way it comes across, the way I wanted it to come across, honest, the way it is. The good, the bad, the ugly.
And speaking on behalf of the ugly, no, for me, what's amazing about this, and I'm going to talk to you, what's amazing about this for me is this is an 80-minute love letter to my favorite place in the world and my best friends. So like this captures a wonderful year permanently for all of us forever. It's gorgeously shot. And I've seen this, like we were talking about, I've seen this like 5 times now, 4 with a crowd. And not just because I'm in it, but because it's just like, it's the place I most want to be. And this is the time of year where I can't be there. So for 80 minutes, I can see it on the big screen and sort of go back for a little while.
Alex, I got it. 10 years from now, the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, 10 years after.
sequel, yes.
Where's the front of the screen?
Hopefully Gene's still around in 10 years so we can get another.
Oh, Gene, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
he would have loved this if he could have been here, but he's what, 90, I think?
Close.
Doesn't look like it, as you can see from the presentation,
Yeah.
but he does have to use a walker to get around, so there was really no way he could be here. He doesn't have a handicap van or anything, so, but, yeah, maybe somehow.
Anyone else?
I got a question for Mark. Have you yet to stop at the Snake and Animal Farm?
Oh, good one.
No, not yet. And I found out they have monkeys there. And if you know me, that's a deal. That's a deal. Yeah. Hopefully this year I'll stop at the Snake, Animal, and Monkey Farm.
That's great.
Any other questions? All right. Well, we're getting the hook. All right. Thanks again for coming, everyone. And like I said,
Thanks.
Facebook.com/@thedrive-in. Please leave a review, share with your friends. This is a grassroots film that literally was made for a couple $1,000s and has no big studio behind it. This is true independent cinema. So support the film, support the Mahoning Drive-In. Thank you.